Hey, that's me. I can see myself.
So I don't know if I ever told you the behind the scenes of your training at Lake Clark.
Okay. But I want to hear the story, actually.
So you came in like hot out of the gate. Your first like experiential flight with me went really well.
Whoa.
And then we went through training, you were doing everything to standards, and I was a little shy about signing you off for your check ride. And so I talked to Aaron about it, and I said, hey, I think he's ready to go, but it's my first year instructing, so I don't really want to, push somebody who's not ready. Yeah. And he goes, just take him out and stress him out. And so I took you down to Kenai, and I failed your engine, and I failed your flaps, and then the tower gave you a circling approach, and on the way down, I started screaming at you.
I remember that, yeah.
And then I started complaining that my ears wouldn't equalize, and while you're flying the approach to standards and circling, you reach in your bag and pull out some gum and say, here, this will help your ears.
Did I do that?
You did.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and I went back to Aaron and I said, I think he's ready.
Dude, I don't remember pulling out gum. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, dude. That was stressful.
Yeah, well, I was trying my best. So, Evan Rothenbuhler.
Yep.
We usually start these things out with what are your ratings and what's your experience?
Commercial multi-engine pilot, instrument rated. I got quite a bit of experience now in the 99, which is pretty awesome. So. And
you have some instructor certificates as well, right?
Yeah, I've got my CFI, my II, and my MEI.
Wow, you've got literally everything except ATP.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so.
So, what did your what has your flight career looked like up to this point?
So up to this point, straight out of high school, man, I didn't know what to do after high school, and kind of took a shot in the dark with flying, honestly. Like, I remember I went out with my best friend's stepdad, took me out in his 172. We went up to Matanuska Glacier. I think it's Lake George up there.
Oh, yeah.
And we flew over that, and it was maybe an hour flight, but after that, dude, I was sold. I think I'd already gotten my loan for school, got set up to go down to ATP in Arizona. Took quite a big loan to go down there, and it was kind of something. If I didn't like it, then it's gonna suck. But no, I loved it after that flight.
Hell yeah. And
so went down there to Arizona, lived with my grandparents, going through flight school.
Nice.
Got private instrument, everything, CFI, II, MEI, everything down there. And it was grueling, man. It was about a year, and that's a little longer than they kind of anticipated for. I think it's like a 9-month program or something like that. Getting through CFI was tough, though. It's supposed to be a 2-week program for CFI. I think it took me 2 months just waiting on DPEs.
Really?
Which, is kind of the story for everyone going through there.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I was living in Arizona pretty much that whole time. Came up to Alaska maybe once or twice to visit family, which is very fortunate. I think every day down there I was calling my dad because I missed it up here so much.
Yeah.
But did everything down there, and it's crazy the difference flying in Arizona versus here.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, so I was out of Phoenix Mesa Gateway, and that's 3 10,000-foot long runways. And, I just remember, the one thing that I remember is going through my multi-engine training in 115-degree weather.
Oh.
And, there it's like your accelerated stop, your accelerated go, and that you don't have it, It's like your accelerated go, even though we're multi-engine, you got to find a place to land. Yeah. And that was that's interesting, flying down there.
And you've got some elevation.
Yeah, I think it was 1374. Gotcha. I think that's crazy. I think I still remember that to the T. But it was about 1,300 feet. But every day, density altitude in the summertime was 5, 6, 7,000 maybe,
Jeez.
Which it's quite a bit.
I know, a 50-year-old multi-engine piston with.
Well, I was pretty fortunate. They had, I think the one that I did all my training in, 814 Alpha Tango. I think it was 2019 or something like that.
Oh, no way.
Full G1000, yeah.
What was it?
It was a Seminole.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's very nice. I think that's why it's so expensive, is all the planes I was flying were, I think the oldest plane I flew there was a 1974, 172.
Wow.
And that was for one flight, it was like a 1.2 for my spin training for CFI.
That's their old spin bird.
Yeah. No, and it was awesome. The guy flew it up from Utah or something maybe to come for like a week to do spin training.
Nice.
That was fun, dude. We did like probably 15 spins or something like that.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, that was a lot of fun. But boy, going up to, we did all of our training at like 8,000 feet, and just all the time, not even just for spin training. And it took a while to get up there.
Yeah.
But no, I have some funny stories about the spin training, man. I think I didn't know what to do in that old of an airplane, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I was used to just straight glass like the whole time I was down there. And it was a little, it was weird flying that old of an airplane at that point. Because, at that time, I had 200 hours or so. And, ATP's got some kind of a bad reputation at times when it comes to their training, but I had a great experience personally.
Yeah.
But I just remember my instructor that was doing it, to start out the spin training, he was flying. He's like, I'll climb us up out of here to 8,000 feet. He was flying. He's like, hang on, your controls, something's going on with my headset jack. And he leans down, he was still on the controls. He starts pulling the yoke back, and then just jams one of the rudders over on me. He's like, your controls. And I had no idea. I recovered it, but it was like, you dick.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, but him and I got along pretty well, even just the one flight. But yeah, no, that's a funny story about spin training.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so.
So you're one of the rare Alaska pilots who's actually from here.
Yeah.
And still flying here full time.
Yeah.
What's that? You grew up with an aviation culture around you.
Yeah.
What was that like?
To be honest, man, I never paid it really much mind, especially the general aviation aspect of things.
Yeah.
I never really paid it any mind, honestly, but it was interesting to think back, like when I was teaching over at Land and Sea for the year and a half that I was there. It was, I'd look back and I'd see pictures from like 2012 or something like that. I was like, it's weird to think this was going on while I was growing up, and I just had no idea about any of it. But I do remember one time, like growing up, I was going on vacation with one of my friends, and I was sitting on the plane, and I was just thinking, I wonder what it takes to like fly a plane like this, like what the process is. I had that thought and then never thought about it again, honestly.
Really?
But it is kind of cool to look back and think like, I kind of had an interest in it, but didn't really pay it too much mind. So.
But you've got to get that that catalyst that really crystallizes, hey, this is it.
I think anyone could fly. I mean, maybe a select few people that can't, if medical reasons or something like that. But because I've had a lot of my buddies ask me like, hey, it's like this kind of seems like a good gig, good money, but they never really get into it because it's kind of like golf. Honestly, you can't play golf. You can't be forced to play golf. Yeah. It's like you can't be forced to fly, It's like you really gotta want to do it yourself, I think.
That's a really good analogy because I've had a lot of people talk about getting into flying for the money, and first of all, that never occurred to me. It was just like, I see a path to become an aviator, and that's the only thing that I see now. There's nothing outside of that. That is the path. And so, to think of it as something that you do to earn a good paycheck, it seems like trying to become a professional golfer because they make good money. Yeah. That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, and it's like, I think if you do force yourself into it or are forced into flying, that could lead to, because instructing, I had one student, I'm not going to say any names, but who only did it for the money. And he had some hazardous attitudes because of it, I think. And I think that if you don't love it, it could lead to potentially endangering yourself or others. And it's one of those things that's like, you got to want to do it.
Well, if you want to do it, then you want to become better all the time. There's always something to learn
100%.
about flying. Like, the pilot nights we have rotating guests present, and there's always something that I knew nothing about. Like, I've got a float rating, but Chris came in last month and talked about flying floats on rivers and on tidal waters, and that had never occurred to me. I was just like, going through my 6.4 hours of flight training, I was like, oh yeah, I just got to make sure it's not too wavy and it's not too glassy. Yeah,
exactly. And it's, I've been thinking about getting my float rating, and his presentation, because I just thought, okay, there's a lake down there, go land on it, and it's like, well, there's more to that, and that kind of opened my eyes to like, okay, if I were to do this, these are things that I definitely want to know, especially because I am at the commercial level and could be something that I'd have to do. And so I actually really liked that presentation, honestly. It was really good.
Yeah, that was, and for anybody watching and listening, we do have pilot nights that are open to anybody, and you can reach out to me on any of the socials to come to one of those. Those are, we always have somebody really fascinating. And, coming up next month, we actually have Larry's
doing it. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I love the pilot nights. They're, like you were saying, with like, there's always stuff to learn. I was talking to my dad yesterday, actually, on the phone. He was like, every pilot I've talked to has just been the nicest person and always willing to help. And I was like, well, I think it's probably because there's always something to learn, and, like in flight school, and kind of like where we're at right now, where it's like, we have a decent job and we like what we do, but kind of stuck sometimes, because like we have experience to go do something else, and every pilot's been in that situation. So I think that's probably why a lot of pilots are so willing to help, is because they've been in that position too.
That makes a lot of sense, because it's like, it's a long road, dude. And like looking back from my beginning and the road I took, I certainly couldn't have made it as easily as I did without the outpouring of help that I got from a pilot community that I did not know existed. Because in the States, it's like, it exists, but if you're not looking for it, if you're not at the airport or at some sort of pilot get-together or school or something like that, you're not gonna get into that community. And it's not like a gatekeeping thing. It's just like GA culture, aviation culture isn't huge in the States, and so you have to actively pursue it. And then once you do, people are super helpful. And
well, it's kind of like we were talking about with corporate stuff. It's like you can't go. There's no applications online, to my knowledge, at least, especially up here, because there's probably only a handful of jets flying in Alaska. And it's I don't know, but I mean, like where I'm at now, I don't think I'd be here without friends at Land and Sea, like Kevin's song at Land and Sea. I told him every day at Land and Sea I'd see turbines taking off out of here, and it's like, dude, I want to fly those. I don't know why I always looked at the 99 and I was like, I want to fly that.
Hell yeah.
And Kevin's song, he walked me over to Land and Sea. He's like, I know the chief pilot over there, we're gonna go. And it's like, I probably wouldn't be here if he didn't go in there with me and
over at Lake Clark.
Come over to Lake Clark and show, like, just kind of get the ball rolling for me. And so it's like, that's awesome. And he's like, I did this for you, now you got to do it for someone else, And it's like, always willing to, and everyone's always so willing to, and it's just, the culture's really good. So.
There are a couple bad apples that you run into here and there, and grumpy pilots, but like, broadly speaking, especially when you're talking about that up and down the ladder, that's huge. Like, pilots are often willing, more often than not, willing to reach down and give people a hand up.
And I wonder if there's a correlation there between people who do it for the money and people who are willing to help,
That's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, because like you said, the bare minimum, like people that don't want to do it, they don't want to learn more. And so it's like, they're just in their own lane kind of thing,
I got here and I've got this job and I'm fine with that.
Exactly,
And there's nothing wrong with being content with where you're at, but like, there's so much to learn that you can always be studying and finding out, something new, something about aerodynamics that you didn't understand, something about the systems that you didn't understand, or a different style of flying.
I'm no av geek by any means, like you and Joe. You guys are like, I'm not that I'm not super into it, but you know, I still want to learn stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, that's why I love the pilot nights so much, because you hear so many different people's experiences, and it's like, also aviation's so cool because there's so many routes you can go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of stuck in a bowl of like, I know I want to fly, but it's like, where do I go?
Yeah, there's so many options.
It's so cool. I love it, honestly. And I actually talked to, like, my dad knew someone else that wanted to get into flying, and I had like a 30-minute conversation with them about how to get into flying and what I think is the best route. And it's like, they're like, I appreciate the help so much. And I was like, I love it. You know, I love talking about aviation. And so it's just always willing to help kind of thing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
Tell me more about your experience instructing at Land and Sea.
it was a pretty good experience, honestly. I was really fortunate to kind of, whenever I was there was a lot of experienced instructors there, and they kind of helped me, like, kind of show me the ropes and everything, and they all left shortly after, and so I was kind of the 800-hour pilot there that was like the most, I guess, senior one there, I guess. But I was super fortunate to get into the multi-engine and start teaching in that, and I really loved it. I think, you know, I was kind of frightened for teaching a little bit, you know, because you get into instructing and it's like fresh out of flight school and having all these ratings, and it's like, I don't know if I'm like suitable for this. But, you know, once you get into it, you kind of find a rhythm, and I think I got onto the rhythm pretty quick, and I'd like to think I was a good instructor. But yeah, no, I gained a lot of experience. I think there's a lot of benefits to instructing, honestly, a lot. I think because it really helped me transition from, I mean, we flew together at Lake Clark, and just how you talk a lot instructing and like don't do a lot of flying, and I think it translates to help me talk through what I'm doing whenever I'm flying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because I remember doing my check ride with Aaron, and I was doing my steep turns, and I was just talking to myself the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, getting a little low, you know, just saying what I'm doing out loud, because that's what I would tell my students to do.
Yep.
On check rides and everything like that.
That I think is super important, because it shows an awareness, even though, you know, maybe you're 50 feet low, but it's way better to point that out and then start correcting it than it is to hope the other person doesn't notice. Because let me tell you what, if I'm sitting in the right seat and I don't have to be flying, I notice. Like, I know that you're 50 feet low. I know that, you know, you've slacked off on the turn, or that we're getting a little slow. Like, all I have to do is look at the instruments. I don't have anything else going on.
Yeah.
And so that talking through and being aware of what's going on, and aware of the mistakes that you're making and correcting those, goes a long way.
Yeah, I find even flying with other pilots at Lake Clark, like if they're just right seating going out to Port Allsworth or something, I normally don't do that when I'm flying alone, but I always do it with them to like show that I know what's going on, and it's like, you know, I guess for their peace of mind or not, but you know, because I do that as well, sitting in the right seat. It's like, I might do this different, but you know, they got it, and so it's like, I don't know, but
I didn't go the instructor route, and you touched on that transition from being a pilot in training to suddenly a pilot who is training, which seemed intimidating to me, which is one of the reasons that I didn't pursue it.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that, and how teaching somebody at 300 hours or so, how that went and what your tactics were?
I think it went kind of what I did. I definitely leaned on other instructors a lot when it came, like the most frightening thing for me was lesson plans and knowing like what to teach, like a fresh private pilot student, like what to teach, you know, because I don't want to say I don't remember a lot of my training, like now I don't, because that was like 4 years ago, and it's hard because, you know, 2,200 hours in, you know, the first 200, it's hard to remember. But for instructing, I think I had to go back to like what my training was and like kind of what I learned, and then leaning on other instructors kind of helped me kind of point students in the right direction and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think it definitely was the lesson plans and what to teach these students that have no idea what's going on. You know, you really have to get into the nitty-gritty, and I think that helps reinforce me as a pilot so that I don't forget those things, because, you know, there's a lot of students that, you know, once they get their private, they time build, in their own airplane or something like that. And you build a lot of bad habits doing that. And so that's why I think instructing is definitely a good route to do, to stay away from those bad habits. But transitioning into the instructing, kind of some tactics I used probably was just in the books a lot, like I felt very confident in like all endorsements and like really confident with systems and all that stuff. And, just teaching it on the daily basis really helps reinforce. And I think that kind of helped me build to where I'm at now. So
if you look at accident data, there's the correlation between the total amount of time that you have and your proclivity for an accident is not as strong as a lot of people assume that it is. Higher correlations between avoiding accidents and are your recency of training. Or one of the higher correlations. And so that's one of the reasons why you and I have to take check rides every 6 months. We have to dive back in. Oh yeah, this has hydraulic landing gear that's run by a pump that's different on this airplane that's fully electric, and that matters because these failures can happen, but if this is going on, and so like that keeps that fresh in your memory. But it strikes me as beneficial, like if you're an instructor and you're in that every day and you're going back over the fundamentals and into the nitty-gritty of education, then you're going to be a whole lot more proficient in how the systems work, what the rules are for flying, what the actual bounds for the airplane are, even if you don't get a whole lot of stick time during that. Is that something you found to be?
Yeah, I definitely think that. Like, I think there's a good balance between, because as an instructor you don't fly a lot, but I think really having that extra time as an instructor to be in the nitty-gritty and kind of the first 200 hours, you're just getting through it. You're just getting through your training, but then instructing and going on to that, it's like you kind of get rid of that tunnel vision and you can see everything a little clearer and understand it a little better. I think that that really reinforces the fundamentals that you have versus, and then, flying every now and again. If you're a good stick, I think that's not really an issue. I think really just the fundamentals are super important, and the flying that's gonna come after. I definitely think that helped to be in the fundamentals like really heavily, and it just that helps a lot.
So you're saying that you can be a good stick, and that can help to a certain extent, but being in the rules and regulations and aerodynamics and systems on a regular basis really helps to shore up those often overlooked or quickly forgotten areas of flying.
Yeah, I think there's a good correlation between, like, it reinforces everything a lot. Like, there's a correlation between like really being sound with that. I think like sound with the fundamentals, it'll help your actual stick flying and stuff like that. Because like, if you don't have like a deep understanding of what's going on in the airplane, that's only going to get you so far. And so I think if you really have a good understanding of that all, the flying's just going to be there.
A great example of that, I was listening to maybe Flight Insight the other day, the older guy who he instructs full-time.
I'm not sure I know.
He had just a short podcast, like 11 minutes, talking about why your maneuvering speed changes with your weight, and I never understood it and it was just 11 minutes. It was super short, and he said it in such a way that it was like, even though I can feel the airplane flying, and I can I can understand like viscerally what's going on a lot of times, that image of what's actually going on in my mind, dude, that clicked.
Yeah.
And helped quite a bit. Like,
yeah, I think that goes back to what we were just talking about, like having a deeper understanding of like really what's going on just helps visualize everything. And like, it's really easy to go out and fly and like fly at gross versus light. And obviously the airplane's going to feel differently. But, you know, a lot of people might just shrug it off and be like, you know, it's still flying and we're good. But it's, when it comes to situations where something's out of the ordinary, you need to know kind of what's going on and why that's happening, and that's why the fundamentals are great.
The understanding of since X is different, that means that Y is now an increased risk.
Exactly, yeah. So
at your time during your time as an instructor, did you have any particularly challenging students?
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenges I had was in the multi-engine training.
Yeah.
And that's just because, you know, these pilots are low time, and aside from the fact of them being like just feeling behind the aircraft at all times, you know, and just going into losing engines and stuff like that, it really can be difficult. And I had a few instances where I was pretty spooked in the airplane.
Yeah.
If you want me to, get into that?
Tell me about that.
So we're at Wasilla doing the RNAV4 single engine, and we had to circle this one day. Wind was favoring 2-2, and so we circled. And on that particular day, I failed the left engine. And so we circled right, we're making left turns, and to me, everything's normal.
Right.
And, you know, Wasilla in the practice area, it gets pretty busy.
It does, yeah.
And we're turning base, and I didn't realize that we'd gotten slow. And, you know, it's not feathered, you know, we're simulated feather, but, you know, there's still nothing coming out of that engine, really. And the plane just starts buffeting.
Jesus.
And this particularly wasn't one of my best students. He'd been out of aviation for 6 months, and it was one of those students that he was getting his multi-engine and his MEI just because.
Yeah.
He wanted to go into engineering for an aviation engineer or something like that.
Gotcha.
And so he was just doing it to do it. And he wasn't, I don't want to talk bad, but he wasn't my best student.
Yeah.
And so he needed a lot of work, and I just wasn't paying enough attention. I was paying attention to traffic or whatnot. And yeah, we got slow, and the plane started buffeting, and that really freaked me out.
Yeah. And so for those unfamiliar with multi-engine flight characteristics, what he's referring to is you've got the left engine out. What you want to do is to raise the dead. You want to raise the dead engine. So if you've got the left engine out, you want to be making right turns to the extent possible. Now, you can get away with making turns to the left if you're going fast enough. In the pattern, you are necessarily lower and slower, so you have less energy to work with in both potential and kinetic energy. And so not only will a multi-engine stall like that, but you'll lose control. So as it slows down and comes close to a stall, you hit what's called VMCA, velocity of minimum control air, and you'll lose rudder authority. And so the airplane, instead of just stalling like a single engine where you can push the nose down and still recover with just a few 100-foot loss in most airplanes, in a multi-engine airplane, if you get to VMCA and don't respond correctly and promptly, then you'll roll the airplane over and dive into the ground at a very high angle, and it's almost unrecoverable, and it's almost always fatal.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think so. All the training I did was in a Beechcraft Duchess, and I thought I read something that said Duchesses have been able to recover from VMC spins,
really,
VMC rolls. Could be wrong. I need to read into that a little bit more, but
at low altitude.
yeah, at low altitude, definitely not. Yeah. But yeah, no, that was a very scary experience that I had with him. And at that point, props were full forward, throttles were full forward, and we were out of there at that point, because, I don't even want to try and keep that engine in a simulated feather condition and try and recover from that. So we went back, did it again, but with the same student. I think this was after that had happened. He was getting close to his check ride, and this was after that, and maybe after another incident not an incident, but another situation where with him that I wasn't happy with. We were going over to Birchwood just to practice some landings. And somewhere along the lines on the way from Merrill to Birchwood, it's a pretty quick flight in the Duchess, he got confused and got set. We were going to cross over midfield, do our teardrop entry to land. I think that'd be runway 2. It's 2 and 20 over there.
That sounds right.
I think that's what it is. I know it's close because that's what messed him up. But anyways, I think we were supposed to teardrop into 20, and he did his teardrop the wrong direction.
Oh.
And I was to the point to where I could correct this, but he's practicing. He was training to get his MEI at this point, so he needs to figure this out himself.
Yeah.
And I just let it be. I let him keep doing his thing. He landed the wrong runway, and he landed 2 instead of 20. And I think he was just task saturated or whatnot. I was doing the radios because he was just struggling to do both. And there was a guy coming in on 20 the other direction, 3 miles. It was a Cub, so they were moving slow. But he landed the other direction. By the time we got on the ground and off the runway, the guy was a mile final the other direction.
Jeez.
And I just let it go. I probably, in hindsight, should have maybe said something just because that traffic was coming in. But I was making the radio calls. Actually, I think he was making the radio calls saying we're landing 20, but he landed 2.
Really?
And so that was, after that, I was like, man, this isn't going to work out, I don't think.
Yeah.
If it was any other student, I think I would have made a decision to not let him land that direction, but he didn't want to have a career in aviation. He just was getting it to have it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, man, I just don't feel comfortable signing you off.
Yeah.
And that was after 3 or 4 other situations of unsafe stuff, just him being super task saturated in the airplane, where I was like, this just isn't going to work out.
So have you had any students that were initially problematic, and especially in the task saturated zone, because that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
Every time you go into something that's substantially newer or substantially different from what you've been flying, just finding the switches that you're looking for is taking way more time.
Yeah.
So did you have any where you were able to help them through situations like that?
I can't think of anything major. I think a lot of the tough transitions were students into the multi-engine that didn't have any complex time prior to, or I had a lot of students that I taught at UAA that they did TAA stuff for their commercial, and so they weren't necessarily used to the complex flying,
right?
And so I found a lot of them struggled with that, of just how prop governor works. They're fairly simple systems once you understand it,
right?
But having to put down your landing gear and deal with an extra lever, actually 3 extra levers, in a multi-engine, but nothing really crazy struggles, but and even a different sight picture. The Duchess, it looks like you're descending whenever you're climbing. And so that was those were the main struggles with them, were understanding the sight picture is much different, and just how a complex multi-engine airplane works was a lot of struggles that we had to work around, which is tough with students because it's an expensive airplane to fly.
Yep.
And they want to get it done as fast as they can, and trying to get them to step back and be like, look, I know you want to get this done quickly, but these are things that I need to see, and I don't want to sign you off if you're not ready, because I don't want to sign you off for a multi-engine check ride after 6 hours or something like that when I don't think you're ready. And
then you go fail and you have that on your...
Exactly, that, or... I don't know if this is a situation for anyone, but if you have a multi-engine airplane to fly, and I sign you off, and now you get to go from a Duchess to maybe a Seneca or a Aztec or whatever it may be, and you kind of already struggle with multi-engine flying.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you get into a different airplane and you struggle through that, and it's like, it's just an unsafe situation for anyone.
Yeah.
Because that'll come back to me as the instructor of, you know, you sign this guy off.
Yeah.
You know, and this happened, X, Y, and Z happened, and it's not on me, but I'll probably get questioned about it, you know?
Absolutely.
And so there wasn't a whole lot, but it's, as an instructor, it's kind of hard to think about the big picture like that.
Yeah, like,
versus,
sorry.
I was just going to say, versus just getting them through the check ride, you know, actually making them into aviators, not just, you know, a barely rated pilot.
That's a fantastic way of thinking about it. You're not just trying to get them just good enough. Like we're actually watching Free Solo with Alex Honnold when he did the what was it? Not Half Dome, the other one. But he did a big free solo climb, and he was talking about some of the other free soloists who'd come before him, and like I think it was Dean Potter who approached free soloing as, you know, I can just eke this one out and do it.
I don't want to interrupt you. I don't know what a free solo is.
So free solo is just climbing without rope.
Okay. Oh yeah, climbing. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
sorry.
it's all good. It's all good.
So, you know, almost all of the big name rock climbing free soloists have died doing it, and it's because they approached it like that. They were like, you know, just eking it out. And Alex Honnold approached it significantly different. He was like, no, I want to feel 100% on every move on this wall. And that's, you know, he's had the career to prove it. He's been doing it for 10, 15 years, 20 years, free soloing at a very high level. And it's because he's not just trying to do the bare minimum. And so preparing aviators in the same way, where you're like, you know, you're not just passing a check ride, but you're going to be allowed to go out, if you pass your check ride, and fly these without supervision. And there's nobody looking over your shoulder. There's nobody in the right seat who can stomp on the rudder for you.
Exactly, yeah. I think going back to my days in flight school at ATP, it's kind of like ATP's got a fairly bad reputation, or some people have bad thoughts about it. I had a great experience, but I think that I kind of felt the same way after my private pilot check ride. It was like, you know, I took it at 74 hours, which is no more than they had allotted for. I was on schedule, but it was like, man, I can go out and fly my own airplane. It's like I was just training these exact things to get me through the check ride, and I don't think I was an aviator at all. Yeah. You know, and I think that really depends on the instructor you have. It just, I was fortunate enough to have good instructors, and that's advice that I give to like a lot of student pilots. I was talking to Zach the other day. He went and flew the 99 with me. I was like, don't be afraid to ask for another instructor that doesn't care about you. Yeah. You know, it's because you're paying a lot of money for this, like a lot of money, and you know, you need to get the education. If they don't care about you, then dude, dump them off. Dude,
and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, I had zero clue when I walked into that flight school. I assumed that all instructors would be retired airline pilots. And so when my flight instructor, the first guy I ever flew with as an instructor was a retired airline pilot and a retired F4 pilot. I was just like, oh yeah, that checks out. That's the standard, I had no idea that the average instructor has, you know, like 500 hours. And that's not to say that there aren't great 500-hour instructors. I don't have much experience with low-time instructors, but he took me out, and the last flight we did before my private pilot check ride, he took me out, failed my engine, and he didn't tell me this till after, but it was above his buddy's property where he actually had permission to land. And so we took it down to right above the ground. Nice. And so he was like, this is what it looks like. Here's what the trees look like when you're this close. And so, like, that flight wasn't in the syllabus, wasn't in any syllabus. It was just, him trying to make sure that once I passed that check ride, I wasn't going to go out and immediately kill myself.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's a good thought there, because I think students and definitely instructors get caught in just training for a check ride. But it's like what I did for a lot of my students. I had this one student, he's a ground crew over at ACE now, and he was struggling a little bit with instrument approaches. Like, just because, we'll go out and do the VOR 7 instantly into the RNAV 4.
Yeah.
And for a low time pilot, that's, even for us, it's hard to program everything that fast, and especially for low time pilots. And I was like, dude, screw this. Let's just fly over to Wasilla right now. We're going to go there, just land and hang out for a little bit. And don't even worry, we're just going to do the RNAV 4 into there. Because this is what instrument flying is. You're going to go fly somewhere, do the instrument approach. He shot it perfectly.
That's awesome.
Had no issue, and he was like, why have I been struggling with this? I was like, because we've been just trying to crank out 4 approaches in an hour and a half.
Yeah, and you're trying to think about the next stuff rather than focusing on...
Because that's what a check ride is.
Yeah.
But it's like, and after that, he was golden. It's just
awesome.
that one thing, he was like, that it clicked, because that's what real instrument flying is.
Yeah.
It's like, that proves to you can do this. It's like...
That's awesome.
And so I tell that story to a lot of students now. It's like, when they're doing their time building for commercial, don't just go out to some strip. Don't choose a point to land. Choose a point to land.
Yeah.
Do an instrument approach if they have it, because once you get into the real world, well, you're kind of already in the real world at that point, but you need to be sharpening the skills, because there was instrument training. No one can land an airplane in instrument training. Going into commercial, no one. None of them can.
Dude, I slammed on my first landing with my instructor and during instrument. I just freaking cratered it on because I hadn't landed that much.
Well, and then you got commercial after that, and you have tighter standards.
Oh yeah.
After you've spent 75, 100 hours building these bad habits, it's like that's. Even for me, sometimes I have to reflect, going into Chignik Lagoon, I have to choose a landing point.
Yep.
And if I don't get it, I'm going around.
Yep.
And it's like, and you need to, it's hard to reflect and to think like that, to always be sharpening your skills, and especially for lower time pilots that are going through training. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, if we can go back to the task saturation for a little bit, do you have specific tactics that you use to quell the task saturation or deal with it?
Checklists would be a great answer, I think. But I think once you're comfortable in the airplane, having flows is really nice, because now, going out, it's almost like the same thing every time if we're going down south, clams wherever you're going, and, and you're gone. But I think it's really hard to just, when you're flying and task saturated, to step back and just get a bigger picture. And, I always told my students, you can ask for delayed vectors.
Dude. Delay vectors are the secret that nobody talks about. Everybody talks about, get a hold if you need it. But a hold is still a bunch of work.
100%.
A delay vector, you're just pointing it at a heading, and they're happy to do that. They don't care. Sure, I'll break you out, I'll give you a delay vector. And then you're just flying straight and level in a direction. Yeah. And you've got all the time in the world.
I think even now, pretty comfortable with the avionics we fly with. If they gave me a fix to load a hold over, that would take me longer to do just about anything else that I was trying to do before. Yeah. And so delayed vectors are awesome. Yeah. But when it comes to the task saturation, I think you did something maybe wrong to get yourself into that situation to be task saturated.
You're not planning far enough ahead.
Yeah, which I've definitely done before. Yeah. But you also got to be pretty fairly familiar with the avionics and whatever airplane you're flying, because if you're not, then that's just going to lead to more situations of being task saturated. So
you were talking about the transition from 172s to a multi-engine aircraft, and for those who aren't aware, when you get your commercial, you can either have 10 hours of complex time, which is retractable landing gear, a prop that changes pitches and flaps, or TAA, technically advanced airplane, which is an autopilot glass cockpit, which is the LCD screens instead of little round dials and an autopilot. Am I missing anything?
I think that's it, yeah.
So these days, it's much cheaper to do the TAA, and it's more beneficial for getting used to the avionics, or the style of avionics that you will probably be using for the rest of your career.
Yeah.
And so to go from just flying something with fixed gear and basically one lever that you're using and some flaps, to all of a sudden you have 6 levers over here. You've got to work them all, and you've got flaps, and you've got landing gear to definitely remember. And it's a new airplane, and it's moving twice as fast as anything that you've flown before. That's huge. And so one thing that I did to cut down on my time when I was going for my multi is that I sat in the airplane and just went through. I pulled out the checklist. I figured out a really rudimentary flow, but like how I could do things in order, and then use the checklist to make sure I did it. And so, and that doesn't cost me anything except time.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I did that over and over again, and I was able to get my multi-engine in, it was less than 10 hours, but I was proficient when I got it, and I was really comfortable when I got it. And it was because I was able to focus more on the systems and the flying, rather than finding that one switch and getting behind and slow and turning.
Yeah. Well, I think with the TA, it's awesome. You know, everyone wants to fly with an especially at that point in your training. It's like a luxury.
So cool.
It's awesome, but to set you up, we're very fortunate to fly with autopilots, but a lot of the commercial carriers, 135s, you don't have that luxury.
No.
And so I think that the TAA time is a little, I don't know if this is the right word, rudimentary. You know, it's like you might not, I mean, it's training that might not be worth anything at that point in your training, or where you're at as a pilot. So I loved my commercial check ride, dude. It was so fun. I did the exact same thing as you. You know, I'd go sit in the airplane, run through the flows, and that's what I did with my students as well. I was like,
nice,
because all of them are like, I want to get this done quick, and I was like, I told them that exact same thing. This is what I did. Go sit in the airplane. It might be 20 degrees outside, but you know, thug it out for an hour, and that's going to save you an hour in the air. Maybe potentially, and you know, the ones that are committed went and did it, and the other ones, you know, maybe they got through just fine and picked it up, or maybe they didn't, and they had to spend a few extra $100.
That's the thing, at $800 an hour. Like, dude, suck it up. Be cold for a little while. Yeah,
I think 3 hours on the ground just sitting in the airplane, that'll save you like heaps, and no one likes sitting on the ground in a multi-engine. No one. And especially with the engines running, because you're trying to get through a flow to get out of there. And it's like, just spend the time to just knuckle down and do it. It's going to suck. No one wants to do it, especially if you got other stuff that you'd rather be doing. But
absolutely.
You know, sometimes you just got to do it and do what you got to do.
But that's the thing. Like, if you front load your training as much as possible, and if you think about your career as a pilot, or even just as, you know, a private pilot, and you want to be proficient, if you front load that training as much as possible, and you really dig into the POH and the AFM, and doing just chair flying inside the airplane on the ground, then not only will it save you money, but you'll become a better pilot, because now you don't have to wonder where something is, or you know, wonder if you missed something. I told a lot of my students that had jobs while they're trying to go through training, it's like, it's expensive to just get through it, and you might not have the money saved up, but you're going to save yourself so much money if you treat it like a full-time job. Yeah, absolutely. That's the nice thing about ATP that I liked. It was a full-time job every day. You know, even if I wasn't flying or had anything with my instructor, I'd drive 40 minutes to the school to go sit in the airplane, or any airplane that's out on the ramp, or study for 8 hours a day. And I told all my students this, and a lot of them had success because they might have been younger and didn't have anything else to do. I told all, just get ahead of it. Get ahead of the training, because once you're in the airplane,
you're not having to backtrack and like try and figure all this stuff out, get ahead of it. Because I found a lot of students that were only flying like 2 days a week, 3 days a week.
Yeah.
You can't do that because I didn't fly for a week and I was like, what's going on? Like Monday, you know, I didn't fly for a week, but that's pilot that has 100 hours, 50 hours, and you don't fly for a week, you know.
You're just repeating your last lesson.
Exactly. And so saving the money, it's like, don't work.
Yeah.
You know, treat this like a full-time job.
Well, and I've heard this sentiment several times. Hey, I'm just going to pay as I go and fly when I can. Yeah. And I've heard that from numerous flight students. Yeah. And I've given them all the same advice. Like, look, save up and do it in chunks. Yeah. Like, save up until you have enough money to complete your private pilot through the check ride. Like plus you know, 5-10 grand extra as a buffer. Yeah. And then don't do anything for 3 weeks. Like just go for that. Yeah. Because then you're not repeating those lessons. You're building on what your last thing was, what your last lesson was. You're actually learning, you're actually becoming proficient in the aircraft, and then you can get through with a high degree of proficiency and understanding, and once you come out of there, you're a better aviator than if you like strung it along and you know, built up you know, 50 hours that you didn't actually need, which is incredibly expensive.
And it's kind of difficult as an instructor, especially at like mom and pop flight schools, because you're pretty like, students are pretty open with you about their financial situation. Yeah. And as an instructor, like being aware of that, and it's like trying to get them through, but they're also trying to work and do all this stuff. It's like, I want to fly, and obviously I want the hours, but it's not in their best interest sometimes. So there was multiple times where I had students, they're like, you know, I'm going to do this flight and then I need some time off. I was like, we're not even going to do this flight, dude. Yeah. It's like you just do your thing, get some money saved up. Yeah. Stay in the books. Yep. It's an hour or two a day. You know, if that's all you can do, that's going to save you so much time and money in the future. And so some instructors aren't like that. You know, they just want to get the hours, get paid. But if you really like, I think that kind of what separates good instructors and not so good instructors is being aware of those situations. And it's hard too, because like, I want to fly really bad, you know, but you got to look in the best interest of the student sometimes.
Well, that's absolutely the best way to, because from the very beginning of your student pilot career all the way through your entire career as a commercial pilot, you're building and maintaining a reputation.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you look at the short term and you're like, how can I get the most hours? Then that's going to become obvious to everyone. Yeah. Everyone above you and below you will see that and will start avoiding you like the plague. But if you take the time to be like, hey, look, I know this is going to cost me 2 hours today that I would love to be flying. Yeah. But it's in your best interest if you just take some time off and save up a little bit, then you'll build a reputation as someone who's honest and who's in it not just for the short-term gains. Yeah. And that's how you win at life, because it's not, if the game you're playing it has a definite ending, then you play to win. Yeah. But that's not how a career works. A career is an indefinite game. Yeah. And the way to win at an indefinite game is to keep playing. Exactly. And so you can make a bunch of money right away, but you have to keep playing, and the players that you play with don't change that much in aviation.
They're going to be right there with you the entire time. Everybody that I went to flight school with, I'm in touch with like 20-30% of them still. Like I bump into them up here. I run into people who I worked with. Actually, I just ran into somebody who I worked with at my very first job. I haven't seen him in 4 years. And
So you're playing an infinite game over the course of your entire career with set pieces. So like you have to guard your reputation and build up your ethics and your values so that they can carry you through an undetermined number of years in your career.
I think you hit it right on the nose. Like my private instructor, he's my best friend. He flies for Envoy now. Him and his now fiance.
Nice.
They live in Iowa. I've flown down to see them every year since I stopped flight school.
Really?
Yeah, every year I go down and stay with them for like a week, and it's just one of those things. I think the first lesson, him and I just opened up to each other so much, and he was my best friend. And some of my students now, I've had times where a lot of my students will still reach out to me and talk to me about stuff, and it's like, it makes me happy because it makes me feel like I did actually okay, which as an instructor, I felt a lot of times like I was inadequate sometimes. Just there's situations, but I think it's awesome that a lot of my students still reach out to me, and I'm best friends with some of them still now.
That's so cool.
And I like to keep up with them. So, but yeah, no, it's awesome. I definitely agree. And it's a little scary sometimes, actually, especially in Alaska, because your reputation's like everything.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Especially on Merrill, because, there's flight schools, and everyone at the flight schools is trying to get a job at the 135s.
That are at Merrill.
And it's like, all the owners, I don't know, but I'm assuming most of the owners know each other.
Oh, yeah.
And so I guarantee Aaron called Key over at the owner at Land and Sea and asked him about me.
Oh, yeah.
Because Aaron taught at Land and Sea for years. And so it's like, you got to keep the reputation good. And it's not, don't keep the reputation good just because.
No.
But just be a good person.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a bootstrapping process, because like you need reputation in order to succeed, but in order to have that reputation, you have to develop the values. So it's okay, I pursue having a good reputation, and by doing that, I create the values foundation that I need in order to maintain this reputation.
Exactly, yeah.
You can't fake a reputation over any length of time.
Yeah, 100%.
That is not a plausible strategy. You either develop into that person that you're trying to be, or everybody sees through it.
Yeah.
And as far as like everybody knowing everybody, when I started at Lake Clark, the first day I talked to Aaron, I was like, look, before I hand you my resume, you need to know this about me.
Yeah.
My first job, I failed because of this. And I told him the whole story. And he takes my resume and he goes, yeah, I know who you are. And it's like, I never met the guy, but he already knew the full story, and he wanted to hear me say it.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting the job, and it's been great. And speaking of which, so you moved over to Lake Clark. What was the biggest shift there?
It was being the PIC and having to not deal with, but flying with passengers and feeling pressures of actually, like, I have to get this job. I don't have to get the job done, but it's my job to get it done.
Right.
And boy, I was so nervous. I remember the first revenue flight I did was in Port Allsworth, taking like 2 people from Port Allsworth to Igiugig. And, I did my Bonanza check ride, but I didn't have a lot of time in it, especially I was in Echo Mike, and I didn't have any time in that one.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it started. I could not get the plane started. And I had a guy right next to me, and he's like shooting me looks the whole time, like, is he gonna get it going? And I finally got it started, but it was like, having to deal with that aspect of things was a little harder for me, and just like making like relationships with the passengers, because we fly the same people
we do
every day, and I'm starting to get to know everybody, but that was probably the hardest thing for me. And I still think that, like, flying the planes is like, that's not a job for me, like that's the part that I really like, but building the relationships with passengers and like having to think of that aspect is way different, and it was much harder for me to to like shift into that?
So starting at Lake Clark, I started in the summer, and so I was flying a lot of times at Lake Clark. We'll start people out on just Port Ellsworth turns, just taking tourists out to Port Ellsworth and coming back, and it's a pretty easy, very controlled situation where we can monitor how pilots are doing, and that's how I started out. And so, but you're only flying tourists.
Yeah.
And in the fall, I talked to Aaron and I was like, "Hey, what do I need to work on the most?"
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't care how nice you are to the tourists. They're not the ones we're flying on here. You need to focus on getting to know the villagers and building relationships with them. And that was something that it just hadn't occurred to me.
Yeah.
And I started, and it didn't at first come naturally to me to try to build relationships. But as I did so, it became way more rewarding.
Yeah.
And now, the villagers I fly, and we fly the same people. It's 200 people that we fly regularly.
Yeah.
And they all know all of my kids' names, and they ask for pictures of our youngest, or they ask how the adoptions are going, and I know their kids and where they're going to school, and what they're doing in school, and that makes it so much more than just a job. It's like you get to be a part of these people's lives in a way that's very intimate for a professional relationship. Like you're the reason that they get to go see their grandmother who's in town having a surgery.
Exactly.
Or you're taking this kid on his first flight ever, which unfortunately I didn't get to do with our youngest.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was a bummer. We had an emergency flight, not an emergency, but we had to fly down to the States with him one day with 8 hours notice, and I was like,
Yeah.
But getting to do that for somebody, and then we have these little beanies that, have you gotten to hand one out yet?
I don't think so, no.
My first flight was on Lake Clark Air.
Actually, I've heard about that. I think Aaron told me about it, or Glenn. We were talking about it on the radio because he was taking a baby for their first flight, and it's awesome. But I think it's important to make the relationships, because people that have been flying with Lake Clark Air for so long, they see so many pilots come through, and it's I feel like it's easy for them to have a mindset of, it's just another Lake Clark Air pilot. They don't really care about me. They're just getting me to where I'm going. But it's, whenever I first started, that was really tough for me, because you land Port Hyden, I didn't know what to do whenever I first landed there for fuel. And it was okay, I see Charlie and I have no idea who this is. Is this the guy that's going to fuel me? And it's stuff like that. It's just the nuances of it, of trying to figure out what to do was also another struggle for me. But I do think that, and now John out of the Lagoon, dude, I love that guy. He's so awesome.
He shows up every time, whether there's freight or not.
Yeah, dude, he's been so cool. I mean, there was one day I didn't pack along a good lunch, and him and I were talking on the radio as I was coming in there, and I told him that, and he came down with a sandwich, an orange, and a Gatorade. And it was stuff like that is so awesome that I think this is probably aside from a lot of service businesses like restaurants, we're really close to our customers. And I don't know a lot of places that are like that,
Maybe a bartender at a local bar or something like that, but
it's definitely not like that at the airlines though, for sure. And I think it's cool though that you get to meet all these different people, and also to see all the hunters and everyone come down. And there's a German guy that came down, and him and I got to talking about it, and it was it's cool to get stick someone in the co-pilot seat and talk to them for 2 hours or wherever they're going. It's cool, the connections you can make.
That is a lot of fun, and that's when you get to stick somebody up there, and a lot of times, during the summer you'll put somebody up there and it's their first time in a small airplane and they're freaking out a little bit. There's this certain freak out zone where it's if they're freaking out just a little bit, you stick them up front. But if they're freaking out more than that, you stick them a few rows back. But you get them up there, and you take off, and you're in the air, and you start chatting with them, and they start to calm down, and they see your body language. You're pretty calm in the situation, and then they relax, and then you get to chat with them, and then you get wild stories from all over. They've been saving up their entire lives to come up to do a hunt up here.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That was another thing for me of trying to maintain a good demeanor in situations where I'm uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Do you have any stories about that?
Not really. I mean, mainly just I immediately think of King Cove and going in there. And it was windy one day whenever I went in there. It was gusting 35, maybe 40.
Yep.
And it was right out of the northwest, I think. So
so it's coming over the mountain.
Yeah, it came in over the bay, and it was bumpy. That was a tough one to get on the ground, but got it on the ground. I dropped everyone off, and they were so happy to be on the ground.
Oh yeah.
I picked one guy up, and he seemed chill. He knew it was windy because it was blowing sideways rain on the ground. And I told him, I was like, hey, it's going to be pretty bumpy. He's like, oh, that's okay. And so we take off. I back taxied. We take off. We were just going to Cold Bay.
Yep.
I was like, we're just going to tough it out through, Larson Bay?
Yeah.
And 3 minutes, maybe we'll be in the bumps. And we take off 200-300 feet off the ground. My backpack, everything that wasn't secured was on the ceiling.
Yep.
And I was like, I was on the ceiling too for half a second there. And I look back, and he's just a deer in headlights. It's just, he thought he knew what he was in for, but and that situation, I had to look back and be like, hey dude, it's just going to be for a few minutes. We're going to be fine. We're going to Cold Bay. We're 2 minutes away. Yeah. And so just stuff like that of maintaining, especially in icing conditions too, because they see it, they can see the ice building and stuff like that. And, driving around whenever it's, 502, it's it's tough sometimes because I wasn't used to other people being in the airplane in situations whenever I'm like that, and internally freaking out and not letting it show to other people. But I think I've kind of reeled it in a little bit, and I think I do okay.
Yeah, so. It's definitely you have to display the confidence necessary, and then you get to the point where you've proven to yourself enough times that, hey, look, this is moderate turbulence. This is fine. The airplane's designed to handle it. I'm below turbulent penetration speed. We're not going to flip over. We've got plenty of airspeed and altitude. We're gonna make it through. And you've proven that to yourself enough to where it actually, it's not just a displayed confidence, but it's a true confidence. Yeah,
and that's. Sometimes you got to put on a face even though you're a little freaked out. But this last Monday, I picked up, Rodney Anderson out of the Lagoon said something to me. I was like, just before everyone got on the plane, it's going to be pretty bumpy on the climb out. I let him know. He's like, well, I'd be disappointed if it wasn't. And so it's kind of nice that, they all are, they're at this point, if they've been traveling with us for a while, they're aware that sometimes it gets pretty nasty, and it's kind of nice that they understand that. And that's definitely not something that the tourists are their first time flying on a small airplane. I always got a little offended when they called it a small airplane.
It's 99. It's the biggest thing I've ever flown.
Exactly, I always find that funny. I have people ask me I tell them I'm a pilot. They're like, well, what airplanes do you fly? Small planes? And I'm like, well, it's not small.
It's not a 172 anymore. Okay,
it's definitely not 737, but the confidence thing is kind of tough. And one thing I noticed is about task saturation, not looking like you're task saturated. And you're just up here just freaking out, doing stuff.
That's huge, because sometimes I'll catch myself, I'll go to do something, and then I'll be like, oh, I need to do something else before I do that. And that's when I know, I'm like, okay, I'm getting out of the flow. I need to take a second. So that's usually when I pause right there, because I don't want to look like, I don't want to go for a button and then stop and press something else and go right back. And so I'll be like, I'll usually fake something for a little bit. But it's just a chance for me to be like, okay, I'm a little behind. how can I rectify this?
Yeah.
What can I do? Okay, I need to do the flow from the beginning. And then once I'm done with that, I've got some time to breathe.
Yeah.
And so that's all I need to do. Or I'll like doing a descent that maybe I started a little late.
Yeah.
And I'm like, trying to reset the autopilot so that I descend fast enough, and trying to correct the pressurization so that it doesn't blow anybody's eardrums out, and also trying to monitor the throttles. And I'm like, okay, is it a crossing restriction? Do I legally have to get down by this point?
Yeah.
Or can I be, a little past? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I can just take a second.
It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Yeah, and it can be tough sometimes because, you got a full bird coming back, and, it's a mile or something at Maryland. You're behind and you look back and there's 18 eyes on you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure sometimes.
Yeah. What I found works best in those situations?
If we had a net, just do that.
Don't look back.
Yeah, that'd be pretty nice.
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm concerned about people, I'll pretend like I'm asking them about the temperature.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll turn back and be like, are you cold or hot? No, okay. All right. Nobody's puking back there. We're good.
Yeah, there's been times I'll just peek back and everyone's just close at me. Or the person right behind the co-pilot, see, they're watching everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, that just leaning forward. I had a guy fold the co-pilot seat down and lean over it, and I was like, and it was not just for the approach, it was for the entire 2-hour flight. I was like, dude, I've got nothing left to do for the next hour and a half. I'm just gonna sit here and you can watch with me.
Yeah. You got to pull your phone a little closer to the left. Oh yeah, yeah, that's good stuff.
Oh yeah. So, have you had any situations that got kind of sticky at Lake Clark, or you mentioned one at Land & Sea?
I've had a few situations where out of Lagoon that one time, I think this happened because I'd been flying 993 a lot.
Yeah.
And I did all my 100 hours in 993.
993 is one of the poshest airplanes that we have,
yes,
for the record,
amazing.
and I don't know why he gets it and not me.
It's because I'm the new guy. They have to baby me a little bit. But yeah, I'm okay with that. But anyways, I flew that a ton. And after 100 hours, you can go into Lagoon. And then I was flying 2AK for a while.
Yep.
And then, so I landed Lagoon in 2AK with only maybe 10 hours in it. I had a rough landing. You saw the video of the landing. It was rough. And I took off out of there, and I had the bolt come loose on the rudder trim. And that was a really pretty scary situation because I had people on board, and I ended up getting it back, but that was probably the stickiest thing that I had. That was really tough for me to step back and just say, I need to maintain control of the airplane.
Yeah. So walk me through that. You take off, by the time you realize that you're airborne, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it on the ground.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was going on the ground as soon as I got off. It just, rudders were shaking violently and the whole airplane was shaking. And I initially thought I had an engine failure, but, I looked at my gauges and everything was fine there. And I was just kind of starstruck because I hadn't had anything control malfunction, anything go wrong up to that point. And then it was just, I was starstruck for maybe a few seconds, what felt like a while.
Yeah.
Just trying to stay in control of the airplane, and especially, takeoffs out of Lagoon, it's short, there's a lot of stuff to do. And, I took off to the east. Yeah, I took off to the east, so there's a mountain right there.
Yep.
And so, trying to turn out of that, away from that, and try and figure out what's going on. And I all my force to try and stop those rudders from shaking violently, and I just couldn't. And it was to the point, when you shake a lot, it kind of start tingling. My legs were tingling.
Really?
I don't know if I was just nervous or what, but at that point, it was just maintain control of the airplane.
Yeah.
And the wind was favoring the direction I Actually, I don't think there was too much wind that day because I just did a teardrop and went back and landed.
Yeah.
I tried the yaw dampener and that didn't do a thing.
Oh yeah, those are pretty slow, especially in 2AK. That even in normal flight, it's pretty slow.
Yeah, but I just turned.
But that's a good thought, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised I thought of it, honestly, because I just thought rudders are going crazy. You know, the one thing I can think of that I have to mitigate that is the yaw dampener.
Wow.
And, I turned around and the landing was, like, I'm just happy I got it on the ground, especially there, because, like, the whole time until I touched the ground, rudders are just doing that. And got it on the ground, and, boy, I needed, like, I think even after that, I was just shaken up like the whole 7 hours that I was on the ground in Lagoon there.
Wow.
Waiting for someone to come. And then, you get out of the airplane, people are taking pictures and all that stuff. It's tough, but, dude, I wish I had like a watch to see what my beats per minute were that whole time, because I got on the ground and I was just starstruck. Wow. Yeah. But I was like, Lord, just help me get back on the ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
So for those who don't know, the rudder trim relieves control forces in the rudder. It's really essential in a multi-engine airplane because you have differential forces left and right, and that the trim tab had come loose because a bolt had come off somehow at some point. Yeah. And it's not even, it's like 12 feet in the air.
It's high up there.
Way up there.
Yeah.
And so it's shaking violently. You have the initial moment of shock. Yeah. And then you're just fighting for control, but also looking for solutions. Yeah. And so you get out, you go toward Chignik Mountain, Chignik Hill, what do you call it? Yeah, the little mountain there, and then you're teardropping back in. So you've got what, a 2-3 minute flight?
So, yeah, it was really short. I mean,
not short when you're fighting that hard.
Yeah, and I think I only went up to about 1,200 feet or so. I flew out pretty wide. Yeah. Even coming in normally, I don't like that turn back to final there. But yeah, no, I turned out pretty wide, tried to figure out what was going on. I think I swung the gear up and I just put it into a cruise configuration because I didn't know what was going on. If I had an engine failure, I wanted to get everything up. Yeah. I swung it out pretty wide, tried to figure out. I think I went like, that little piece of land that protrudes. Yeah. I went past that and then came back in. So I went out pretty wide, especially in that situation where I just don't have any rudder control pretty much. Yeah. Coming into land, I wanted to give myself plenty of time to get set up in a long-ish final into Lagoon there. But no, dude, it was a 2-3 minute flight, but it felt way longer than that. So I was very happy to be back on the ground after that.
Dude, so great work on that. That's some thanks. That's some real piloting right there.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So going forward in your career, what do you see as like your long-term goals? Do you have any like I want to be in the 7.4 or I want to fly spaceships for Elon because I'm young enough?
That'd be pretty cool. I think, dude, the 7.4 777 would be awesome, but also like a corporate jet would be pretty cool. I think to have a cushy corporate job would be really cool. I think even like whenever I first started flying Gulfstreams, dude, like something about them, like they just look, I think it was playing GTA or something growing up, and they're just such a slick looking airplane. I think, if I don't get a corporate job, I could see myself going to the airlines, but that's, I'm young and I can't even fly there yet. And so I think I'm still in the state of trying to figure out what I want to do. I love Lake Clark right now. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. Flying turbines is awesome and like just the freedom we have. But I think long term, corporate or airlines, I think would be really cool. And I think I'm really happy with the direction I've gone thus far because, well, it's like, you go straight from a 172 training to a regional jet and you're an SIC. It's like, I like the middle ground right now. Yeah. I really do. And I think it can kind of help you with being a better pilot.
You're getting, like, one of the cool things about Lake Clark is that you're getting real brass tacks experience. It's like everything is down to you. You show up, you have a list of passengers, origins, and destinations, and sometimes you have a suggested routing.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like, you have to make sure that none of those airports are closed, and you have to see, which ones you can actually shoot an approach into today, which right now is not many.
Not at all, dude.
If anybody in the FA is listening, we could use some ATISes
that would be
somewhere along the peninsula.
Honestly, anywhere at this point.
Yeah, anywhere.
Yeah, Port Haydn would be very nice.
Yeah, that would get you right in the middle. You could go from there. It'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, backtracking a little bit, like you said, having to figure out, we get like a suggested route, and like we kind of just have to fine tune it. That was another thing that I struggled with getting into aviation. It's like, where's my fuel stop gonna, or not getting into aviation, but into the commercial world, where am I going to stop for fuel? Because I was so used to, fill it up, we're going to go out for an hour and a half, come back and we're fine. And Aaron was on me quite a bit because I was making some wrong decisions at some points of like, you didn't have to do that. You know, it's like, and a lot of the times you're taking less fuel out of Anchorage because we got to get these people's stuff out. And it's like, okay, well, now I got like 2 or 3 more extra fuel stops because of that. And so that was actually something that I found very interesting because I'd never thought about that. It's
wild. And so like sometimes you can cheat it. And like the other day, there was a low pressure system. You and I were flying back, and there was a low pressure system right between Kodiak Island and the peninsula. So we flew out on the north side and flew back on the south side and had tailwinds both ways. We only had to do one fuel stop. Otherwise, we would have had an extra stop in there.
100%.
And so, like, you've got to be thinking about the whole thing, and like fuel is one of the bigger considerations. But
especially in the 99.
Their endurance is, they're not known for it.
Yeah, that's for sure. But that was one thing that I kind of struggled with, and I'm kind of starting to get into it a little better. But I'm going back to like where I want to be at. I think in the next few years I'll be kind of somewhere, hopefully, where I can be for a career. So
well, you've got 2,200 hours at 22 years old. I think you're off to a good start.
I appreciate that. I've been honestly super blessed with, honestly just getting into Lake Clark and getting into the turbines as fast as I did. It's just incredible, and I'm super happy about it. So
you were a very deserving candidate for that.
I got past John, so that's kind of all that matters.
Evan Rothenbuhler,
I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for coming on.
That was awesome, dude.